Ladies and gentlemen, guys and dolls, my name is Tony and welcome to another edition of Pod Tiki, How to make. Today we're doing a special drink. We're doing a drink, well, I mean, really, aren't they all special? Today, to me, they are. Today we're making a drink that is kind of special, actually, in reality, because it was one of the ones made by the OG himself, Mr. Don the Beachcomber. This is a drink that not only means something to all of us and Tiki-dom, but to him. Because Don himself, even after he became the Don of Tiki and a successful businessman and the guy who created the genre of the Tiki bar, of Tiki in general, even after all that, he still went and did the last bit of Tiki culture, which is expat culture. Well, he went and lived it by serving in the Air Force during World War II, and then coming back and pretty much finding himself on Hawaii like a true expat. But it was from his dedication to his patriotism that he created the drink called 3 dots and a dash. Now, 3 dots and a dash is Morse code for V, which in the parlance of the war era, it stood for victory. There is a little bit of discrepancy about the timeline of the origin of that name, but we do know that it came from the 3 dots and a dash being the code name for victory. And I go into all of this on the podcast, so please check that out. But for today, we're going to jump right into the drink because it is not a very complicated drink, but it is a mixed drink, a blended drink, and I do have my ice sitting here, and we don't want to let it sit too long and thaw out, so let's get going on the drink, right? Let's hit the ingredients. The 3 dots and a dash is a classic Don the Beachcomber, just Tiki. It's one of the epitome of Tiki drinks, right? This is his style of making drinks is so evident in here with the mixtures of rums and the added ingredients from the islands and the spices and things. It's going to be an incredible drink. We're going to start out with the rums. The first thing we're going to use is some aged Martinique Agricole. I'm going to use Clement VSOP. It's the one I always go to. It's my favorite, and it's got a really good, strong, grassy agricole flavor, which I like. Now, the second rum. Ooh, I'm going to do something I don't usually do. I broke 2 of my own cardinal rules. One, well, let's describe this first. The recipe from Don the Beachcomber, as transcribed by Jeff Beachbumberry, calls for an aged Demerara rum. Now, I have one that I go to. I'll shout them out because I love it. It's the Hamilton 86 Demerara River rum. That's hard to say. But for some reason, and I love that drink. I love that. I love sipping it. I love putting it in cocktails. For some reason, it did not stand up to the strong agricole flavors of Clement. It almost felt like another drink that uses honey syrup and falernum and Clement. It tasted a lot like a Martinique cocktail, an island of Martinique cocktail, but not as good. It tasted unbalanced. Not because the Hamilton wasn't good, but because the agricole stood way out in front. So I was racking my brain, well, how could this be? I know that Don the Beachcomber would not, being known for his rum rhapsodies and his rumgenuity, he wouldn't put out 2 drinks that were so similar, especially when one is like a lesser version of the other, and they were on the menu at the same time. I don't believe he would do that. I had to be missing something. And so it occurred to me that, much like, El Dorado or the Hamilton, there are different versions of rums from the Demerara rums, Guyanese rums, right? A lot of people that are into Tiki, ever since I started mixing Tiki drinks, have always used Lemon Heart. And that is a very dark, rich, kind of pungent rum. So I was like, well, I don't have Lemon Heart 151 around me, and I don't feel like getting up and going to the store, and I was literally in the middle of like recording the show, like making this thing. But I realized I do have something that a lot of people use in place of Lemon Heart 151. I use it in place of Lemon Heart 151. Now, Demerara rum is from Guyana, so it's one of those things where all Demerara is Guyana, but not all Guyana is Demerara. Demerara rum comes from a very specific region around the Demerara River, but Plantation OFTD does use a Guyana rum along with the Trinidad and the Jamaica, I believe, it's a Barbados and a Jamaica. A Guyana, a Barbados, and a Jamaica. 3 very, very rich rums, and they really do kind of emulate the flavor of that Lemon Heart 151 darkness. And because it's an overproof, it really It lends that kind of, I would describe it as, it's that place where a brain freeze hits you in the back of your skull. It's like that when you get that rich, deep, rich, overproof kind of, ooh, like right there. It's got a pungence to it, sort of like Lemon Heart does. And I use this in place of things when something calls for Lemon Heart 151. Lemon Heart's a great rum. I love the regular Demerara. The 151 just is a little bit too astringent, a little bit too pungent for me. This has that flavor, that overproof flavor, but with more dried fruit, with more earthiness, with a little bit more of a floralness to it. And I think when I mixed this into this cocktail, mind blown. It made me realize, oh my God, this, I don't know what the hell rum Dog and the Beachcomber used, but it had to be something more deeper and richer and closer to this. And it gives a little bit of that oomph too that you overproof guys like. So my two cardinal rules that I broke was, one, I never try to swap out the original recipe, and two, I don't prefer overproofs if I don't have to. But in this particular cocktail, I really truly feel like this being a Guyana rum and being darker and richer like the rums he probably would have used back then, I feel like it's an acceptable substitution. And if you will excuse me for using an overproof, I do feel like it overcomes the other flavors in this cocktail for this particular recipe. All right, next we're going to use our juices. We got a fresh orange juice, a fresh lime juice, and we have some honey syrup, Don's Mix honey syrup, which is a 1-to-1 clover honey and water, which makes a nice, easy to use honey syrup mix. We're going to use Angostura, and then of course 2 of the classic tiki liqueurs, and 2 of my personal favorites that I like to put in everything, but rarely do they go together, but in this one they do. We're going to do Velvet Falernum, we're using the John T. Taylors, and we're going to do some St. Elizabeth Allspice Dram. Allspice is one of my favorite just ingredients to put in everything. I swear, if I could just drizzle this on my pancakes, I would just put this on there. It's so good. Oh, so good. Well, we're going to mix all that with about 6 ounces of crushed ice. That's, a little bit less than a cup. We got that set up here. We're going to turn that on. And we're going to do a 1/2 ounce of the juice. We're going to do a 1/2 ounce of orange juice. A 1/2 ounce of lime juice. And a 1/2 ounce of the honey syrup. Oh, I love the way honey syrup mixes with agricole rum. Are you kidding me? Oh. 1/2 ounce of that. I want to make sure I don't short myself. Ingredient amounts are so important when you're dealing with tiki, especially if this is all so dialed in to the freaking 1/4 ounce. Which, speaking of, we're going to do a 1/4 ounce of this allspice dram. If I was better and smarter, I would have put pour spouts on these ahead of time, so I didn't have to sit there and almost spill every time I poured. But I'm not smarter and I'm not better. That's why I'm recording these in my kitchen and not in a professional studio. But I like to think there's some charm. We're going to do a 1/4 ounce of the falernum as well. So far we're at a 1/2 ounce each of the orange juice, the lime juice, and the honey syrup, and then a 1/4 ounce each of the pimento and the falernum. We're going to do a couple of dashes of Angostura bitters. I always do a little bit of a 1/2 an extra dash. I like Angostura. And then I save the rums for last because I just don't, something I learned from reading Martin Cate's book. You don't want to mess up, you don't want to pour expensive rums in there and then mess up your juices and have to go back and waste that rum. But we're going to do 1.5 ounces of the agricole. So you can see how the agricole, there's so much of it that if you don't have a rum that stands up to it, it definitely will become overpowered. Or it will overpower in the drink. We're going to do 1.5 ounces of that, and then we're going to just do a 1/2 ounce of the OFTV. Dark, rich, Demerara based, or Guyana based. Yeah, 1/2 ounce of that. Perfect. And I didn't just sub this in on a whim either. Like, I tried lots of different variations in recipes and different amounts of the ingredients to see if I can get the regular Demerara rum to work out. But I really feel like this is a great choice for you guys to go in there with that. All right, then we're going to blend all of this on high for 5 seconds. Bam. If I don't And there we go. Now, we're going to open pour this. You'll see this cocktail calls, if you read it in the recipe books, it says pour into a tall glass or a tiki mug, but it doesn't really fill up a tall glass or a tiki mug. Like 10-ounce Collins glass, perfecto. Look at that. And then as that settles, you'll see the bubbles start to come up on top. I might have put a little bit too much ice in there. Now it's starting to come, it's starting to come. You'll see that as it settles, the bubbles will start forming to the top. You'll get a nice little foam on top. And if you could see in there, if there was a better camera angle, I could show you that there's actually like nice little bubbles, kind of almost like sea foam bubbles popping up on the top. We're going to garnish this with a little pineapple spear and my pufferfish straw from SurfsideSips.com. Go to Surfside Sips, order your glass straws for all your tiki needs. Enter Pod Tiki at checkout and you'll get 20% off, and I'll get a little bit of notification, a little bit of kickback. And there you have it, folks. Oh, wait. What are you saying? Something's missing? Something's not right? Wait, what's this? Oh, we almost forgot that the best part of the 3 dots and a dash cocktail is the 3 dots and a dash garnish, right? The 3 dots and a dash, the Morse code for V, represented here by 3 cocktail cherries and a pineapple spear. There you have it, folks. 3 dots and a dash. You lay that right across the top of your drink, and bam. 3 dots and a dash. Old school Don the Beachcomber classic. Let's take a sip and find out what's going on with this. Yeah. It's just, the aquacol is probably still the first thing that you taste, but it's not like boom, in your face like you just took a sip of rum. It's like it's blended with fruit juices, and it's opened up, and you can taste the dried fruit notes of the Demerara or the Guyana OFTD in there, but also the lime juice, the orange juice. Because even though orange is a citrus, it has a richness to it, and lime has a bit of a spiciness to it. The honey syrup adds in it. You do taste the dram, the allspice dram, on the back end as it kind of goes down your palate, and then the rest of the flavors. Everybody sits here and I think they try to pull out too many distinct flavors. If you can't pull the flavors out of a cocktail, that's actually a good thing. That means that it's perfectly balanced. Like, you shouldn't be able to pick one flavor out of the other. So like some of these flavors, like the honey syrup and the falernum, that kind of falls to the back. But if you didn't have them, it would seem unbalanced and unfull. I just can't believe what a great cocktail this is, and I mean, I definitely see. I mean, look, now that it's kind of settling, you can see that true tiki bubbling that it's getting up top there. Oh yeah, look at that. Come on. Oh yeah. Now that it settles, the agricole is kind of fading, kind of floating into the bay, and the other flavors are kind of coming up, like a lapping tide. Yeah, you can kind of feel, definitely taste everything so well balanced. It's fruity and grassy, but also at moments rich. It's refreshing as much as an alcoholic drink can be, but it is definitely it's exotic. Yeah, I'm struggling for a word, which I don't usually do, which means that maybe I've said everything I have to say, which now I'm just rambling. So, if you like the video, try this at home. Let me know what you think of it. Comment, rate, subscribe. Across everywhere you see this, just follow everything you see. Just look me up anywhere. Pod Tiki, no matter where you go, it's gonna show up. All right. Go to the podcast, because not only did we cover 3 dots and a dash, we also covered one of the bartenders that was serving at Don the Beachcombers, or bartending during the time that this was invented and served, Mr. Hank Riddle, which was somebody that I did not know about until I read Beach Bum Berries Sippin' Safari, which is where I got most of the information for this cocktail in this last episode. I was fortunate enough to meet Mr. Berry for the second time a couple of weeks ago, or about a month ago. One of the nicest guys in the business, and he really inspired me in the very beginning to get into this, and inspired me again with this last episode. So thank you guys for listening. I want to hear what you think about the episode, what you think about the cocktail. If you follow me on YouTube, please subscribe. We're almost to enough followers where we can start going live. I know I'm begging for followers. I'm not even dry begging. I'm wet begging for followers right now. I'm just soaking wet begging for followers because on YouTube. Look, other platforms are doing very well. I cannot thank you guys enough for the recent numbers that we just hit on Instagram. I'm not going to say what the number is because maybe this will come out 10 years from now, you're watching this, and there's a new number. So I'm not going to lock myself in to the right now number. But thank you guys for the milestone we just hit. It's been incredible. It's going to still be incredible. And there's only going to be more stuff to come. Some surprises coming this year that, some musical stuff happening. I'm hoping to get the podcast up and a little bit more professional. I'm thanking you for you guys that are stuck with it. Please follow the podcast across all the platforms: Spotify, iHeart, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher Radio, and always at podtiki.com, where you can not only find all the recent episodes, past episodes, you can also find the recipe index, where we load every recipe that we've ever talked about, plus a few extras, originals in there, here and there. There's also a blog section where I do some of my rantings about non sequitur stuff that you can like it or don't like it, but it's there. And you can follow us on the social medias. If you want to do Instagram, is where I'm mostly at. You can do pod_tiki or rum_poet for my personal page. Trying to get the tiki or the Tony.tiki on TikTok. It's just search Pod Tiki on there. Tony.tiki is what it is. I hear that that's what the kids are doing these days, so I'm going to start taking my talks. And then, you can find us on Facebook, everywhere else. Just do it. Just type it in, you'll find it all across everything. I'm gonna go finish my 3 dots and a dash. Go. You know what? You can't drink out of the leaf. You have to drink out of the straw. I swear this is my first one. I swear. Centric victory, huh? That tastes pretty victorious.